Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
Now, O2 customer data is being sold by criminals on the Darknet. It's a hidden part of the internet, often used for illegal activity. Names, emails, passwords, dates of birth and phone numbers of customers are all for sale. An investigation by this programme has found that it is highly likely a result of something called credential stuffing. That's where stolen information is used to log into personal accounts and steal even more data. Our reporter Catherine Nye has been looking at it and is here with me now. Catherine, first of all, how did you find out that this was actually for sale?
Well, this was brought to us by an ethical hacker, basically a good hacker, who looks out for this kind of activity online. Now, he came to us, told us that O2 customer data was being sold on the Darknet. Now, the Darknet is a more hidden part of the internet. It's accessed using a special browser, and a lot of criminal activity goes on there. You can buy guns, you can buy drugs, and you can buy a lot of stolen data like this. Now you can see this is the O2 customer data for sale on the Darknet, on a Darknet market which looks a bit like a market you might use on a normal internet. It's actually on offer. It's buy 5, get 2 free. So that's buy 5 sets of personal details of O2 customers, get 2 free. Now once we found out about it, we bought a small sample just to check it was genuine and contacted immediately all of the people whose details we had, because we had their telephone numbers. And this is me making those calls to customers. So on this screen is a list of names, email addresses, passwords, telephone numbers of O2 customers who I'm going to call up and tell that their data has been stolen.
Hello?
Hi, is that George? Hi, is that Roman? Is that David? This is Julie. Your details have been stolen by a hacker. Your date of birth, your name, your telephone number that I've called you on, for sale on there. And your password is... Yeah, I know. This is a really strange call, isn't it? And we've got them. So as you can see, some quite unusual phone calls. People were quite alarmed that I'd been able to contact them using stolen details. And what I said to the customers was, change your password on your O2 account and change the password on other accounts that use the same password.
So how did the information actually get there?
Well, we started investigating, and O2 were also investigating. And it was actually together that we managed to find out this is something called credential stuffing. What had happened to these customers without them knowing is that they'd already been hacked years ago on a gaming site called XSplit. Their usernames and passwords had been stolen, and then where the credential stuffing comes in is that those usernames and passwords were used to log into the O2 account, get more information, and then that's what's being sold again. What criminals do is that they stuff millions of sets of data through websites like O2, and every now and again they'll get a result. So if you put 1 million emails and usernames through a website, every now and again those will match because people use the same details again. And when that happens, they're able to get more data, and criminals are able to sell it in places like this.
So what do O2 say?
Well, as I said, they investigated this with us, and they've given us a statement. They've said we've not suffered a data breach. Credential stuffing is a challenge for businesses and can result in many companies' customer data being sold on the Darknet. O2 have reported all the details passed on to us about the seller to law enforcement, and we continue to help with their investigations. And it is important to say that this isn't just a problem for O2. These customers had been hacked years ago. They didn't know about it, but they used the same username and password, so that was able to be put through O2's website, and obviously that could be tried on multiple websites. So many companies are vulnerable. The key thing here is that the username and password are the same, and if you do that, you're vulnerable to something like credential stuffing.
Okay, thank you, Catherine. Well, let's talk to Hussein Shaw, who's one of the O2 customers whose details were sold to us from the dark web. Also here is Graham Cluley, a security expert who can talk to us more about credential stuffing. Thank you both very much. Hussein, tell us first of all what happened to you.
Well, I was approached by Joshua from, he's a BBC reporter, one of you guys on your team, who said he had my all my details, my email address, password, which was for sale online. Obviously, initially I was quite wary of his contact, but because he had his Twitter handles and it was quite genuine, and I was known that my account had been compromised because back in February, through eBay, they actually contacted me and they suspended my account one evening because of suspicious activity. Someone had used my password to put up a load of adverts for motor cars at that time. And later on, they emailed me again recently to say that it is possible that my details are on an online database for sale, which was confirmed by your team as well.
So when you got the call, what did
Yeah.
you think? How worried were you? I mean, do you know what your information may have been used for?
Yeah, I mean, I do try and stay safe online. It was quite a cardinal mistake by myself just to use the same password across all accounts. So yeah, it was quite worrying initially, but I was quite aware that the details that had been compromised weren't too critical in terms of my banking and in terms of my emails. It was only stuff that I'd used for online forums and nothing too critical in that respect.
Graham, how often is this happening, that people's information's being stolen and they may not even know about it, but it's out there for sale?
It's really happening all the time. The thing is, these days, if you're on the internet, you've probably got hundreds of different accounts on different websites, places you've bought things, or football forums, or eBay, and plenty of these other places. And if any of these places gets hacked, and the hackers manage to grab your data, your details, your credentials, they will try and monetize it. And one of the best ways to do that is what we've really seen here with the O2 case. They've used that information to go to the O2 site and grab further data from there, which then adds to the value of it.
So this is what is called credential stuffing.
That's right.
And it's possible because people will so often have the same password for everything that you're talking about.
This is the cardinal sin that people are making. This is the big mistake many people on the internet are doing, is using the same password on multiple sites. You have to use unique passwords for every website you have an account on. Which at first...
So each time you get asked for a password, you should put something different in every time?
It should always be something different, in my opinion. Now, people always say to me, well, hang on, if we've got lots of different passwords...
How will you ever remember?
How will we remember them? Well, good news, you don't have to remember them. I don't know my email password, my eBay password, my Amazon, my Facebook, my Twitter. I don't know any of those, and they're all really complicated passwords. But what I do know is how to get into my password manager program. Okay. And that's a program which stores my password securely and also generates random gobbledygook passwords, because my puny human brain would only choose really dumb passwords which are easy to guess.
Is that not open to vulnerability too?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's good that you ask that kind of cynical question. You're right. There is always the danger that someone could hack into my personal computer and crack into my password manager. But my belief as a computer security expert is that is less of a risk than using the same password on multiple sites. Some people don't like password managers. You could write down your passwords in a book, but there's also the risk there of if you're sharing the house with somebody else, or if your relationship goes sour, someone may have made a copy of your book or take it away for 5 minutes.
I mean, all this stuff is on the Darknet, and with a special browser, anyone can get onto it.
Yeah.
Does that mean it's quite easy to police?
No, it's very difficult to police these kind of things. The Darknet is a sort of shady alleyway off the regular internet, where there are big marketplaces, criminal marketplaces, where you can buy just about everything. You can buy weapons, you can buy credentials, you can buy drugs online. And it's very, very difficult for the police to find out who is running these Darknet websites and to shut them down, because it's all based upon really strong anonymity.
Catherine phoned up the people whose details she'd got, and in most cases they didn't know that their information had been stolen. What is it being used for if people don't even know that their details have been taken?
Well, they might have used those details time and time again to log into different accounts to steal information. In some cases it might not lead to identity theft. There's also just simply people who are selling it on to others, who may feel that they can monetize it. So if one group of hackers feel that they haven't been able to do anything with it, that doesn't mean it's of no value.
So
they can carry on. Organised criminal gangs. So what's happened is we've seen a huge growth in cybercrime. Criminals love to use the internet because it gives them some kind of anonymity. It means they can be far across overseas, a long way from law enforcement in this country, but breaking into British accounts. And it won't always be bank accounts. It can be your email, for instance. That's one of the things you really need to protect the strongest, is your email account, because that's sort of the crux of all your online accounts, and that's where you're getting messages from all of these websites as well. So you need really strong security on that. And I would say go more than just a password. Gets a little bit nerdy, but you should enable features like two-step authentication, which gives you an additional level of security, which means even if you lose your password, the hackers shouldn't be able to break into your account.
You said how difficult it is to police the darknet. What is being done to crack down on all of this?
Well, certainly some criminals make mistakes, and sometimes they will use the information to, for instance, commit fraud on some of the sites or have goods shipped to them, which they can then sell for profit. And then when you have an address or when you have a money trail which you can follow, that is something that computer crime units around the world are pursuing. So, I mean, there is a lot of effort being made to combat cybercrime, but if you're a competent cybercriminal, you can cover a lot of your tracks.
Annie is asking, how can someone like me, a grandmother, make sure my O2 mobile is safe from these criminals? Can I click something on my phone to prevent this, or uncheck something in the settings and privacy?
It's not really as simple as that with your O2 account. You can go and speak to the guys at O2 about what extra levels of security they can give you. But what I would recommend is have a strong, unique password. That's the #1 rule. Now, it may be that O2, I'm not familiar with them, also give you two-step verification, or they may be able to say, look, we can turn something on which will prevent people from logging into your account if they're in the Far East, or if they're in China or something like that, which isn't something you would normally do. And that should ring alarm bells and prevent them from giving those people access to your account.
And what are the companies doing? Because it's not just O2, as we've said. What are all companies doing to protect customers' data?
Well, I think as we've seen more and more hacks happening, organisations are realising they really need to protect the data. So they are looking at implementing strong encryption on details and enabling this extra level of security, two-step verification. That's when you log into your account, you give your username and password, but then it asks you maybe for a 6-digit number. And that number is something which is sent to your mobile phone, or it's displayed by an app on your smartphone. And that's an extra level of security, because the hackers, even if they have your password, they don't have physical control over your mobile. And so you have possession of that, and that helps you authenticate you are who you said you are and the real account owner.
Hussein, you've had a sort of real awakening on this, obviously, having been hacked yourself. Has it made you change the way you're going to behave in the future?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like your guest mentioned, changing passwords was the first step, and making sure each one was unique. I haven't yet used a password manager, just purely for the reason I don't. I haven't done enough research into, the actual how secure they are. But it was very shocking initially, to learn that this kind of thing goes on.
Thank you both very much. And I think, Graham, you're coming back a little bit later, I hope, to answer people's questions. So if you've got questions, do get in touch. The usual ways of getting in touch at Victoria Live on Twitter, and we'll put your questions to Graham later. Well, we can bring back in Graham Cluley. You may have seen him earlier, a security expert. He already talked to us about credential stuffing this morning. For anyone that may have missed it, Graham, just remind us quickly what credential stuffing is, what's going on.
So this is when hackers steal your username and password or your email address from one website and then use that information to break into a second website where you might have a lot more information about you, and they can then monetize your information much better, because they now know maybe your mobile phone number, they may know other information about your full name, for instance.
OK, so people are asking lots of questions about how to protect themselves from that. Joe has emailed, how do I find a password manager?
Well,
and what is a password manager, just quickly? It's something that enables you to have lots of different passwords without having to remember them, isn't it?
Exactly. It's a program which runs on your computer, which remembers all of your passwords for you, but stores them securely and encrypted. And they are protected by one master password, which you remember. And you make sure that's a complicated password, which you remember. And that means you don't have to remember all of your individual passwords. You can get password managers, you can download some for free off the internet. There are others which you can pay a monthly or annual subscription for. And
is it better to pay?
Well, I always think generally when it comes to your security and privacy online, I prefer to pay rather than getting a service for free, because then I know they're working for me rather than trying to monetize themselves some other way. So, but there are some good open source password managers as well, which are free. There's one called KeyPass, for instance. There are also some commercial ones. Look at the independent reviews and you should be able to find yourself a good one, which is recommended.
Stuart has tweeted, say people need to know about proxy servers and virtual machines. Tell us.
Yes, so a proxy is when you're using, for instance, your Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, for instance. If you go to a hotel lobby and use the internet there, you have to be very careful because there could be a hacker in the vicinity who is actually intercepting your communications with the internet and grabbing your passwords and private information then.
So just to explain that, does that mean that if you're in that environment, someone can just leap straight in and they don't even need a password to get into your system?
Well, they can grab your information as it's sent from your laptop or from your phone to the internet because you're using free Wi-Fi. So the recommendation is that you use a piece of software called a VPN. I'm sorry for all the techno babble, but what that does effectively is it encrypts your information, sends it to another computer which is safe on the internet. So the communication across the free hotspot Wi-Fi is really sent down a tunnel which the hackers aren't able to crack into.
How do you get a VPN?
You can get those, again, from the internet. Look at the reviews. There are good ones you can put on your phone and on your laptops as well.
LP has tweeted, why aren't people using junk email accounts for online services instead of using real email accounts?
Well, you can use a junk email account, of course, to sign up for some of these companies, but the problem is, every now and then, these companies want to contact you. And are you going to be checking all of those email addresses to see if they contact you or not?
Does it give you better protection, though, if you do it that way?
Well, I mean, certainly, if you don't use your regular email address for a particular company or for a particular site which you log into, they aren't going to be able to know what your real email address is. So there is some advantage there, but it may be difficult maintaining lots and lots of different accounts.
Jen has tweeted, why don't you tell us how to set up a two-step verification for our email address? How do you set it up?
Well, it varies depending on your provider. So whether you're using Google Gmail or Yahoo or other services, Microsoft Outlook, for instance. But there are ways to do it, and I would recommend it. You can go to my blog, actually. We've written out guides for how to enable that kind of protection on those different services. There is a bit of to and fro in, but it's fairly simple to follow the process. You go to certain places on those websites, and you can enable the service, and it really does protect your webmail much, much better.
Okay, Jan has texted, my husband's computer was hacked. Does this mean they have stolen his personal details? And she also says, actually, he thought they were from Microsoft. So it sounds like he was tricked by someone pretending to be official.
So this is a trick that we see a lot. This is a tech support scam. What often happens is, once the hackers have got your phone number, they might ring you up claiming to be Microsoft or a company like that and saying, hey, we've identified there's a virus on your computer. We're going to offer to clean it up for you. And at first you think, this is marvellous. Isn't this fantastic? Someone's helping me with my security. And they then lead you through a process whereby you give them access to access your computer remotely, and they can install malicious software and steal information. Whether your correspondent has had their information stolen or not, hard to say, but chances are, if they hacked it, they could have grabbed data.
And we were talking earlier and saying people don't always know when their information has been stolen and what it's going to be used for.
It's really difficult. You know, if the Mona Lisa was stolen, it's obvious because there's a gap on the wall. But when it's data, it's just data being copied. It's hard to know that anything's disappeared.
Thank you very much. Lots of good advice. Thank you very much.
I've been